Hey there, welcome to the Fit, Healthy, and most of all happy podcast. I am your coach and host, KG, here with
JW in the house. What's going on, everybody?
We're happy to have you here. It's an amazing Monday or whatever day it is that you're listening to this. So as always, we are going to start with our top question of the day. And that question is, I want to shed this unwanted weight fast. I don't care if I lose muscle. Theoretically, what's the fastest way to make this happen?
Awesome question here. I love the theoretical ones because we always recommend you don't want to be losing weight too aggressively because naturally it will come at the cost of losing muscle. It'll come at the cost of just putting yourself through too much pain and suffering, hormonal changes, as well as emotional changes. So there is always an advantage to having a controlled rate of loss. If you have a lot of fat to lose, that can be a lot more extreme than someone who doesn't have a lot of fat to lose, but it can vary quite a lot. But I love this example because hey, I don't care about the consequence. Theoretically, how could I lose much as weight as possible? And I would start by saying the answer is obvious. Obviously, you would eat nothing, only drink water, exercise as much as you can. Of course, this would be incredibly unhealthy. You can pass out, seriously injure yourself, and I would never advocate actually doing this. But because of the theoretical, I think that's a funny place to start. So if we did scale that up and we said, hey, I want to be in a huge deficit. I don't care about this. I have a vacation coming up in a week. What can I do? All the time I'll hear people say, easy, I'm going to go in the sauna and I'll drop 8 pounds when I'm in there for 40 minutes. I'll really see that weight come down. Obviously, this is not true weight being lost. This is just you losing water weight. If you actually wanted to lose fat, and that is the question I believe that we're going for here, not just weight, but truly losing fat. So to optimally achieve this, we want to be in the maximal deficit possible while still having energy to train hard, take care of ourselves, and not be absolutely miserable. And the way I'd recommend this, obviously, is eating really clean, maximizing eating high protein, and being in a deficit, as I said, that is manageable. If you think of a scale of full, hungry, and full, satisfied, and hungry, you want to be absolutely starving at the bottom end of that scale. You want to be hungry. You want to be solidly hungry at the end of the day to indicate you are in a deficit. This will help you take off that fat. And by eating healthier whole foods and really sticking to that, especially for a time, it'll allow you to be more content with less calories. Whereas if you just go out and eat junk food, you perhaps will have more calories, feel less satiety, have less energy, less macronutrients and micronutrients for your body to utilize. So in this case, I would really recommend dropping those calories quite a bit, within reason, eating as clean as possible, and really training hard alongside doing a lot of walking. I would really recommend the walking and weight training over anything else because other things come at a cost. Obviously, you'd burn the most calories by sprinting a marathon. That's not going to be possible. You're going to destroy yourself. You're not going to be able to walk. You're going to have blisters. It's unrealistic. Whereas walking is actually a net neutral in terms of energy output. You actually can gain quite a lot of energy back. It feels awesome. You're getting blood flow to your muscles, and you can walk quite a long distance without feeling absolutely exhausted. And yes, there may be less of a burn, but it is still going to have some of its benefits, and it also has an appetite suppressing effect, which can be absolutely fantastic. So there's a lot of things working for you in this regard, and that is quite simply what I would recommend doing. I wouldn't recommend doing anything crazier past that, any crazy supplements, diuretics. Stay away from all of those. If you truly wanted to do it, you could be more aggressive with it in this sense. And obviously it would be very hard. It'd be very physically demanding. And that's why I don't recommend trying to ram and jam losing a bunch of weight, because it'll come at a cost too. Even if you look better, you've lost 10 pounds, you're going to be pretty miserable. It's going to be really hard adjusting out of that. Your body's not going to like you. You're going to be having a hard time sleeping because you're so hungry. But I did enjoy the theoretical here.
Yeah, it is a really interesting question. And, for me as a coach working with so many different people, I hear a lot of different thoughts, and, a lot of people have different suggestions and what if, and it is really interesting because it gives us a lot to think about. And one thing I've learned just from working with so many different people is to ask the right questions back to be able to get the right answers and understand them more. So if I were to be asked this from, let's say, a specific client, my question back would be, so what is it like? Why is it that you wanted to do this? And especially in terms of losing muscle mass, I would always educate the process of gaining muscle is a very, very hard process to do. I find losing fat, you can more or less do it kind of quickly, whereas building muscle is a lot longer. So when you lose a lot more, it's going to take more time to build it back if you decide that you want to do so. So I always like to educate, and I've been there before where I've definitely lost some muscle, especially doing lots of cardio, doing lots of running stuff. And I've had to suffer to get back to where I wanted to be, to kind of take that approach to build back. And the other thing is I like to educate on the overall looks of having more muscle versus having less muscle, right? So if someone loses, let's say two people lose 10 pounds, one person loses mostly muscle, let's say 8 pounds of muscle and 2 pounds of fat, and then the other person loses like mostly fat, that person who loses more fat, so using two people as a comparison, let's say two people lose 10 pounds. One person does it a little bit longer. The other person does it super, super quick. Now, the person who did it super quick, let's say they lost 8 pounds of muscle and 2 pounds of fat. They're unfortunately not going to be very happy with how they look. Whereas the other person who took a longer approach, they had to, kind of do it for a prolonged amount of time. Let's say they lost 8 pounds of fat and 2 pounds of muscle, which is a very, very solid approach. They're going to be super happy with how they look because their overall body composition is going to be substantially better. So I think sometimes people will set these goals of like 20 pounds lost, 30 pounds lost, and they do forget about the overall body composition, because most people who set this goal, the most important thing is how they're looking, right? That's the main reason they are setting this goal. And so that's why I really like to educate, because a lot of times people will have this mindset. Like there's a guy at the gym and I always hear him talking about, I'm 11 pounds down in however many days. And a lot of times people rush to do this, but then unfortunately they lose too much muscle, which ends up not looking as good when that's the main thing that they're striving for, because they're focused on a specific number. However, Josh's points are great. I love what he shared there. I do also know that some people do have different goals. Like there's certain times in your life where you're like, I honestly don't care. Like I want to be lean and mean, and it doesn't matter to me how much muscle I have. But I did want to mention that because I do feel like a lot of people forget about the overall composition side of things in terms of how muscle actually looks in just the physical appearance. And that's kind of my main thing. Josh gave a lot of great tangibles, and I want to give a different way of thinking for those who may be out there thinking I need to do it as quickly as possible. But that's just what's been on my mind for this specific question.
Yeah, I think that was a great way to turn it around and really say, hey, think about it. And things have a cost, and it's always good to be mindful of it. And sometimes that cost can be annoying, as we mentioned, and really weighing all these different factors. And I think even there's nothing wrong with really just like tuning yourself up, going all in like 2 weeks before vacation, a month before vacation, obviously with a clear deadline in sight. It's a lot more motivating to say, okay, I'm going to lock in. I'm going to be in the gym consistently. I'm going to train harder than ever before. Maybe I've been eating about 60% clean. I'm going to eat 90% clean. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And I think it can be a good system, and it can actually provoke better habits. But also be aware too, sometimes when you go so far to one side of a spectrum, you'll revert to the other. And that vacation, you might say, oh, I've been suffering for a month, so I'm here to enjoy myself. And you can undo a lot of progress in a week. You can undo a month's worth of progress by just going too hard, not taking care of yourself. And finding that balance and really learning how to live fit, healthy, and happy for life is the better foundation. And that's obviously why we speak about it so much, because you can have your cake and eat it too. And you don't need to be doing these drastic measures of like trying to rush to always get ready. And I think even that's a good analogy. Like when you lay out your clothes in advance, you know exactly what you're going to have, you know where you're going, you know all the info. It's a lot more enjoyable than when you're rushing around making drastic Hail Mary decisions, trying to figure out how to navigate it, what to wear, where to go, what to do. So it's the same thing with your fitness, and definitely something to consider. But now we're going to go ahead, now that we've answered our primary question, and we're going to jump into our quotes. We like sharing quotes because we find they're impactful thought provokers for us throughout the week, and we try to ruminate on one quote that really just hits us, gets us thinking, and fires us up. And I'm going to go ahead and start with mine. So my quote is, "It's impossible for you to fail if you know who you are, what you want to do, and you wake up every day and work towards it." This is simply stated, but I believe it's incredibly true. When you know your goals, you know who you are, and you begin to do work, perhaps you might not get there next month, maybe not this year, maybe not 10 years, maybe not 20 years, but as long as you're working towards your goal, to me, that's a comforting factor, and to know you get better. And as someone who's done that and really implemented this, it's really cool looking back from last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and seeing where I've come from, where I've gotten, how those incremental small decisions have compounded to be such amazing results. So once again, there's nothing too profound or deep about this, but I know there's someone out there who needed to hear this. So once again, it's impossible for you to fail if you know who you are, what you want to do, and you wake up every day and work towards it. And just know exactly that. Like I said, even if progress is slow, that is entirely different than failing, because you can't fail if you don't give up. You keep putting in that work. So that is my quote for today.
Yeah, and I feel like it's like quite simple strategy there. Like, you know who you are, you know what you're striving for, and you work towards it, right? It's like a couple step process. And Josh shared that with me last week, and I had to sit there and I'm like, man, that's a good one, right? It's like, I love the ones that are like simple, but I also love the ones that are like deeper, that really, really make you think. But that's going to bring me into mind, because I had to sit there for a few minutes this morning actually and figure it all out. But it said, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So this was from Lewis Howes, was saying in a motivational video. And then I looked it up, and it was also said before by Conor McGregor, Will Smith. And then another article was actually about like studying. Like there was some tutor or, some sort of educational thing. They were talking about this quote: if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So what I like about this is you can apply it in so many different ways. So in that one thing for the schooling article, they were saying like, if a pop test were to come up and you've actually like done the work and you've been super consistent, you've studied, you've done what you needed to do, you'll be set. Whereas if you have to get ready like the night before, like you cram, like we've all done that, and myself included. I've never been the greatest student in terms of actual schooling, but it's an interesting thing, because like I feel like there's so many things in life that we'll procrastinate, we'll wait till the last second, we'll kind of feel like we have to rush to get ready. And that's usually not the best approach, even for schooling, when you're just like studying just to do the test instead of like actually studying to get to know what's going on. I think it makes such a big difference. And I want to use that as an example and kind of relate that to the fitness journey. Like I can apply it to so many things, but even for my body weight, like I want to stay ready. I don't want to have to just find a specific day, a specific event to be like, I have to get ready. In terms of strength, I'm always trying to manage my strength as best as possible and not let it go. In terms of the business, in terms of everything that's going on, instead of having to just feel like you need to cram and get ready last second, if you stay ready with everything, you stay on top of everything, you stay proactive, it's not always going to be easy, but I feel like you're going to be in a better situation and in a better spot. If something happens, you're able to navigate. You've done your morning routine, you've gotten ready, you've been staying ready, and if something happens, you're able to navigate it. You get stressed out, something pops up, instead of you having to kind of figure it all out, you're like, well, I've already done all the things I needed to do, so I'm able to address it in a better situation. So just wanted to share that with you today.
Incredibly well said. And now as we transition over quotes, I got some really cool thoughts for this week. So quotes, there you go. It's quotes and thoughts. So maybe this part of the podcast will be the quotes. But what I have is that clarity isn't knowing what you want to do with your life. It's about knowing what you want to do this week. So I spoke before about zooming out and looking at the macro. And this week I'm going to say, look at the micro. Sometimes it can be hard to plan where you want to be in 10 years, what your ultimate goal is in fitness. But like, what's in front of you that you need to take care of, especially when you come off of like long weekends, events, vacations. It can be really easy to be like, oh, my major goal has been changed. It's not exactly where I want it to be. But instead it's like, what's in front of me? What can I do to win out this day? What can I do to win out this week? And I just thought that was incredibly well said. And I love this further, just something I wrote down is that you don't have to have your life fully figured out. You just need to know your next step. And I think that was a good extra addition to my quote and something that was just really on my mind. And just ask yourself, like, what's your next step? What's your next small decision you need to make? Maybe it's buying better resources at the grocery store so it's easier at home. Maybe it's signing up for a gym membership. Maybe it's contacting us and getting started with coaching. Whatever it is, what is that next step that's going to be a mover for you? Get out there and take it.
Yeah, I love that, because it actually got me thinking about one of my thoughts this morning, and something I ask myself very often when just dealing with something or when assessing a situation is, what can I do in this current moment? So similar to what Josh was saying, like, what's my next step? Another way of thinking about it, I think, is this question that I ask, because I feel like sometimes I can overthink, and especially when there's problems, like I'm always thinking of like just maybe the worst case, not always, but like it's easy to think of the worst case scenario. Specifically my car, for example, I was driving yesterday and the gears started messing up, and this morning I was really thinking about it like early on, but then I'm like, I can't do anything right now. I can't call the person, I'm going to deal with it when the time comes, when we're done with everything, and we'll move on. Right. And I think like a big thing in terms of life, and one thing that has helped me just assess a lot of situations is asking like, what can I do in my control currently? And I find it's a really good way to just like know what that next step is, but to also help you avoid putting together all these scenarios that may also be kind of made up. So I know it's a random thought, but it was on the top of my head. So that's what we do here, is we just share what we're thinking about, what's on our mind. I'm sure you have more stuff as well.
I got one more thought. So I just thought a lot about the concept of just being normal, and how oftentimes and one extra thing I had that was pretty funny. I had a lot of thoughts this week. I just firing things in here. But another thing I had wrote down is we often care about ourselves above others, but then why do we care so much what someone else thinks? You work out too much. You aren't going to get dessert. You're obsessed with fitness. It's all a result of someone's insecurity. So in our mind, often we're thinking about ourselves, but the second someone makes a comment, it can make us question everything, get in our head about it. And I even just wanted to challenge what normal is. So when you think of normal, even statistically speaking, a normal person is physically unhealthy, emotionally anxious or depressed, socially lonely, and financially in debt. Celebrate being different and be your own person. And I think it's real easy, and all the time being in this space, we'll just have people reach out saying, my family doesn't get it. My friends think I'm too obsessed. Is this normal? And the issue is we're used to consensus as human beings. If 6 people are like, hey, I'm eating this buffet and I'm getting absolutely hammered, and you're there sticking to your goals, excited to wake up, to work out and do something in the different, it's okay being different. It's okay being weird in that situation. And that's my point. Use your goals and what you want to be as your guiding compass. Know who you are, take that action, going back to my quote. And once again, this was my theme for all my different thoughts in my quote, and definitely something I'm pretty passionate about here.
Awesome. And that's actually going to bring me into my main thought for this week is, I feel like a lot of times people love to brag about the suffering that takes place, and some people who maybe obviously do 75 hard, and I'm more so specifically thinking of the nutrition side of things, and kind of ties into that first question actually quite well. But I just think there's nothing, I don't really understand why it is. I think maybe it tells for better stories, and maybe there's more conversation based, but I actually wrote a little part every Monday. So for those of you who don't know, I sit there and write out an email to our email list just with different thoughts, also the quotes from this week, but whatever's on the top of my head and whatever I decide to put in it, I put in there. And I sent this out recently. And by the way, if you are looking to get on that list, just click down below. You can grab one of our free resources, and that will put you on our list. And the goal is to send you out as much informative content out there, completely free, no strings attached. And I feel like we've put together a lot of good emails lately just to give you some more free content. So anyways, I said, I hear this a lot. I'm doing no carbs now, trying out this keto approach. Or some people say, I'm not able to eat any of my favorite foods anymore, or I think fasting is going to be what will work. And it's usually the extremes that people love to talk about. I find it's also the people who aren't seeing the best results that will follow these extreme approaches. And even if they are seeing change, it usually doesn't last long. I very rarely overhear someone saying, I've just started being more consistent and eating better, or I'm going to strength train 4 times a week and follow a flexible dieting approach. Why is that? There's a ton of reasons, but talking about the extremes to a coworker, a family member, or someone at the gym is just way more exciting. When you showcase a form of suffering, there's more to talk about. People are surprised to learn more, and they're just really interested in it. Anyway, so I kept going on about that, but I hear this a lot, especially going to the gym, especially talking to a lot of people. I really encourage you to focus on your journey in a longer term approach, even if it's not as sexy, even if you talk about it and people aren't as interested. You're on a really great track when you start to eat healthier, you start to make those better decisions, you start to strength train. It'll never beat that one friend who comes into work or that other person who tells you about the crazy, insane things they're doing. But it's a high possibility you're going to keep going for longer and you're going to get better results. You may have less to talk about because people will be less interested versus saying that you did some crazy extreme thing. But yeah, that's one thing. It drives me nuts, honestly, sometimes because I see so many people with great potential just doing these short-term fixes and then struggling for the rest of the time afterwards.
Yeah, short-term fixes will lead to long-term problems, but long-term fixes will just be the better solution in general. So look to the long-term in that sense, take that first step. And once again, I think that all really just connects together quite nicely. So those are our thoughts as well as our quotes. And now we like to jump into showcasing a client who has been crushing it, someone who was struggling previously that has it figured out now. And we're really excited for our shout out this week. Who do we have?
And this week we have Michaela, who's been working with Coach Jason. She is over 30 pounds down and absolutely crushing it. So as always, every Monday and also in the email, we showcase the transformation, some tips, we write a little blurb, and also on Instagram, we make sure to get a video just sharing what they have to say about the program. We always say, hey, if you don't mind, just share something about it. We don't give them a script, we don't tell them what to say, and they just are kind enough to do that. So we appreciate you all who have done this. But either way, so she had some amazing tips. Even one of the biggest things that stood out when Jason said, hey, Michaela, do you mind sharing some of your tips? She said, choosing to invest in myself and committing fully. I made a lifestyle change and found success because I decided to make an investment in my health and give it 100%. And this honestly made my day to see, especially because her tips are absolutely fantastic. You know, she even talked afterwards about planning as much as possible, finding meals that she loves so she doesn't have to sacrifice her favorite foods, having balance and perspective. And the reason we like sharing this is because everyone can learn something from anyone, right? And a lot of times people are closed-minded, but what I notice is when we ask for these specific tips, a lot of our clients have very similar things to say. And why is that? It's because it works, right? Even recently we shouted out some clients who were saying the exact same thing about finding their favorite foods and navigating all that. And when you look at the trends and you actually pay attention to what's working, you'd be absolutely mind-blowing. And it's funny because we're on the topic of doing short-term fixes. People will see stuff like this, but then still go out and try something that's just really unreasonable, that's not, you know, as exciting, because these tips, as much as they're fantastic, they're not gonna make you sit there and like just think, oh my gosh, like that's game-changing, that's crazy. But it's those things that are the basics that actually work. And I thought that was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and once again, if you're struggling with the basics, we're here to help make that happen. Always feel free to reach out to us on Instagram. Our Instagram is at Colossusfit, COLOSSUSFIT, and message us the keyword online coach. And it's actually fantastic timing because a question we've got, and we get this quite often, is, are personal trainers worth it? Curious your take. So if you're unsure, myself and Kyle, I bounced around the fitness industry for a long time myself. I worked in a gym for quite a long amount of time, got into personal training, did that privately. Myself and Kyle both did it. And we really realized long-term it wasn't the solution. And it's a great base where you can really, if you have no confidence, you're scared of the atmosphere, you're scared of hurting yourself or doing exercise wrong, having someone there to show you movements can be absolutely fantastic. But we're like, this is hard to do just one-on-one and we want to scale this. So we started making YouTube videos that would teach people how to do this better. And within that too, just filming yourself, sending it in, that's what we offer on online coaching. It's amazing just how easy I can fix people's form without you having to pay me like $100 an hour to sit there, count your reps, and just walk you through basic things. I also find personal training was a double-edged sword because it was real easy to book in a session and say, okay, I have this session, it's coming up, I'm going to crush it. They're going to die in that hour. They're going to get really pushed to their capabilities. It's going to be a tough session. But then afterwards, there wouldn't be much accountability towards the nutrition, the long-term planning. And it would just become this cycle of like, oh, I'll eat poorly and then I'll just train hard and see if things level out. And I wouldn't see as much progress in my clients. And I really want to push them to do stuff outside of the gym. But they say, you'll take care of me in the gym. So we went away from that and we really crafted out the best possible system and structure we could for online coaching, and we've had that continually evolved. Fast forward now, we're over 4,000 transformations, and me and Kyle get pretty irked even just seeing some of the systems of personal trainers, and a lot of our friends are personal trainers and they're wanting to get online for the same reason. And online is just so much better because you can learn how to do it for yourself, you can learn how to do it long term, the resources are available. Once again, you get so much accountability and guidance, like you have someone by your side 24/7, unlimited text interaction, which is more valuable than waiting to ask me a question in a session. So I'm very passionate about this, but I know Kyle is especially passionate about this. So I'm going to pass this over to him.
Yeah, and honestly, like, our answer isn't just because we do online coaching. There's a reason we are doing online coaching, is because we firmly believe it. And back when I was a personal trainer, similar to what Josh was saying, like I struggled to get someone results in the very beginning. And the main reason was because there wasn't a whole lot else going on. And so what I mean by this is we started to create an online approach with each person that came in. So when someone came in to do a session, let's say they signed up for 20 sessions, I would see them 2 times a week or whatever it is. and then they would struggle with accountability outside of it, and then nutrition. So they would feel great within the workout, but it really bothered me that they weren't seeing the change that they wanted. So what I started to do was each time they would come in, I would take a look at their MyFitnessPal. We'd start to introduce the spreadsheets that we've always used. I would get them to do that. I would also program workouts outside of it because they needed to do more. So it turned into this entire approach where it was like most of the work being done, like 80% was online, and it was just like what actually really mattered. And so that's what's really cool, is because I started to think, okay, well, these people understand the movements. They're doing a lot on their own. Why don't we just do everything online? And one thing I will say is we've always done online coaching. Like most people don't realize, but we have done it for close to 10 years. But for those especially who really think they need someone in person with them, it is a bit of a mindset shift for them. And if you're someone who literally, you can't get to the gym and like you need that appointment and it's like that's everything for you, I get it. But I do believe that the more sustainable, longer term approach, like the online side of things, is absolutely amazing. I'd say it's not for everybody, but I'd say for most people, like 80+% of people, they will be better off in terms of pricing, in terms of the actual value. And it does kill me because a lot of times, even when I ask someone who is going down a personal training route, I'll say, hey, so what's being included? And they're like, oh, the session a week. I'm like, how much is it? Like 120 an hour. And then, so what else is included? Oh, that's it. Like we just book in and we just talk during the session. And it kind of kills me because my goal is to offer so much value and to help someone outside of it, because each week there's 168 hours, right? If you're in there for 2 hours a week and you're just getting someone to count your reps and make you sweat and feel like you killed yourself, that's just not going to cut it in terms of results. Like, yes, you might have the social aspect. Yes, you might really like your trainer. And I wanted to be honest, because my goal here isn't to just like appeal to, there may be some trainers who are like, oh man, like, not enjoying exactly hearing this entire aspect. But even if you are a trainer, like you have to ask yourself, how can I offer so much value outside of this? Because I know a lot of people who are struggling, and I know a lot of people who are wasting money. And it's just a tough process because my goal is to see everyone succeed. I know I'm going on a bit of a rant here, but I see so many people wasting money, wasting time, thinking that they're doing a whole lot, and they're just not getting anywhere. And our mission here is to help every single person. It's to be fully honest, to be fully transparent. And I wanted to pop off on that rant because I've been holding it inside for a bit of time now. And I truly believe online is the way to go. And I think for the most part, most people will be better off with it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I see a lot of personal training sessions turn into like more of a conversation time. Even yesterday, a trainer was like, I need this machine. My client has 10 minutes left in their session, so we need to get after it. And then we're like, okay, we'll use it after. And me and Kyle are waiting like 15 minutes later, and they're just chatting. I saw like 2 sets get done, and like nothing against that trainer or anything, but like it's so easy to get into that. Even with my clients, like I used to set timers and I'd be like, listen, I know this is like, I don't mean to be rude, but I'm going to stop our conversation so we can get this set in, because you're paying me to see results. Like I know it's easier in the back of people's mind. Like I have a trainer, like if I talk to them longer, they'll still find a way to get it done, but it comes at the expense of your own results. And that's where like everyone can have an online coach. Having someone on your side to help you with planning, to help you with big think, to push you to your max potential for training, nutrition, as well as accountability is just so beneficial. And it's just such an advantage to have. And whether you're a beginner, whether you're advanced, you can always get so much better. And once again, if you're looking to level up and you want to work one-on-one with us, our transformations are fully guaranteed. So you have nothing to fear, and we will get you to that next level. Just message us on Instagram with the keyword online coach, and we will take great care of you. Once again, DM us online coach or our Instagram at Colossusfit, COLOSSUSFIT. All right, now for our final question today, it is, do you track the calories in vegetables? I don't, but I have a friend who also doesn't track vegetables and fruit, and I know that can add up. Curious on your take here. So quite simply, I track everything that has more than 0 calories. Some people will track things that have 0 calories, and I think that's extreme. I would say most things. Like right now we're having a monster. This is 10 calories. I'm not going to include these 10 calories. Once again, if you're having 10 of them a day, it could quite add up. Of course, I'm not doing that. 10 calorie is not going to be a big deal. So that is where it can get hard to not be hypocritical, because even this individual doesn't track their vegetables, they track their fruits. But some vegetables can really add up, and it's like, where does that cut off? So I love Brussels sprouts when I go out, and I love deep fried Brussels sprouts. Those can be 400 to 600 calories quite easy, but it is a vegetable. The second you start saying, oh, I'm not tracking that, it'll add up, especially with fruit. You can easily have 400 or 500 calories of pineapple. It's really delicious. And vegetables can be a couple hundred calories in your day as well. And our goal here is to be as accurate with what we're tracking so we can make the necessary adjustments to make sure we are indeed seeing progress. So I recommend tracking everything, but don't be that person tracking 0-calorie foods. That's where it gets excessive. What are your thoughts, Kyle?
Yeah, I just think like habit creation's everything. And I just make a habit to do everything everything the best of my ability, right? Even just our lunch, we have like 7 different servings of veggies. And if we're kind of sitting there not tracking that and kind of just navigating in a sense where it's like, oh, I won't put the spinach in, but then I'll put the whatever else, the edamame, because it just becomes more confusing. So I think it's honestly easier and better just to get into that habit. And especially because, like Josh said, it really can add up, and we want to just be as accurate as possible because it will make a difference on our journey. And yeah, that's all. Josh said it really well, and that's what I wanted to share with you as well.
All right, we want to thank you for tuning in with us today. This is a fantastic episode, jam-packed with information. If you have any questions at all for us, please follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram is @Colossusfit. You can see our transformations there as well. Also, be sure, if you're looking to level up, which I know you are, and go from good to great, see the results you fully deserve, DM us the keyword online coach, and we will take care of you. Thanks for tuning in today. Peace out.